Hello and welcome to the Extended Greg YouTube channel. I'm Greg, and today we're going to be building an APK Linux repository for Alpine Linux. So it's going to hold our package, tailing on to what we did yesterday in the stream, and pretty much it's going to allow us to also host any other packages that we want as well. It's going to be available to anyone, well, any computer that can access that machine. It's going to be available over a web interface, and it's going to also have some certificates and things like that. But it'll allow us to keep packages offline as well as distribute our own. So let's get right into it. So what we're looking at here is I found this tutorial, and it's made by Iriana. I'm not really sure, but short form is that it's a kind of a deep dive into it, and I kind of like the way that it's structured, everything else like that. But I do actually have kind of a overall flow of what I'm looking to get through today. So we're going to pretty much come up with a list of packages, and we'll do that from a template machine. We're then going to fetch the packages and store them in some kind of, well, APK version number main. I can read it. Don't worry about it. And then pretty much we're going to run an index command on it in order to generate our APK index file. And then we're going to sign that index so that way we know it's valid. So that way it knows we're putting it into the right place. Then we're going to use Nginx in order to pretty much have both our APK index, all of our packages, and our public key shared so that way we can access it. And we're going to use a couple of Raspberry Pis to be able to do that and go through and configure them real time. We're going to use a Raspberry Pi 5 as our actual server, and we're going to use a Raspberry Pi 3B Plus just because that's what I happen to have out. And to be honest, we're not going to be doing a lot of process-intensive things here, so it doesn't really need to be anything special. It's really about download and upload speed and capacity. So pretty much what we have is we would set up a separate directory for the repository. We would structure the directory, just as I was saying, based on the notes, which I took out of this and also some other places, and put it inside of a place, or put it into a structure where APK could natively find it. Because, of course, you don't point it all the way down to your architecture level. There's some implied things. So as far as everything else like that, you know, the version number and then main usually is the last part that you would see in your APK repositories list, where the actual architecture itself is based on what architecture you have. So for now, we're going to be focusing just on AArch64 for the Raspberry Pi. I have that on both of the test machine and as well as the Pi 5, which will act as the server. But I do think there's opportunities to be able to make it so it could do multiple distributions without much of an issue. So going down from there, creating keys, we're going to do that just same thing as yesterday with signing packages. We would have to sign our APK index file so that way it's a valid index. And then, of course, we would want to be able to make it accessible, because we can make a local one, but I mean, realistically, the cache is that. So, you know, it doesn't do us much good. So we definitely want to make sure that we're doing something that is going to be able to be served to other machines. And it actually goes even a little bit further in this tutorial, where it goes into package version differences, things like that, where it does comparisons and things like that using a PHP script. But we're actually going to pretty much deviate at that point and write our own script, because we want it to just keep the most recent file. We don't want to back version anything, and we want to make sure that it's downloading it direct from a known source, which is going to be the repositories for that particular machine. So we're going to try it out. We'll go through, we'll at least set up the repository initially, and then we'll start scripting it, so that way we have some utilities to be able to do it, and I will actually go through and post those after the fact on a GitHub. So let's get right into it. So hopping over to what's going to be our server, which is Raspberry Pi 5. And I just have these vanilla. I've reset them since yesterday, and pretty much we're going to do same standard config. So we'll do setup Alpine, give it fact that it's prompting for password... Oh, I didn't log in. I'm sorry. There we go. I thought I didn't delete it or something. Okay, ready. Alright, so now let's do setup Alpine. Will the Thrill says, howdy stranger, hope all is well. I'm thinking around a couple of projects myself tonight, but I'll be listening in. Oh, I appreciate that, Will. Definitely always welcome, so. Alright, so we're going to initialize this keyboard layout. We're going to call this the repository. We'll set up Ethernet 0, and that is it. So no Wi-Fi in this particular case, and no manual configuration. We'll give it a very secure password. Alright, and time zone. We'll set up Crony. And that should give us the right time. There it is. We'll give, we're going to enable community repositories because we don't know what packages that we're going to need. And we're going to use the first mirror, which is the CDN. We're not going to set up a user. Use OpenSSH. We will do yes for login. No key. No disk. And media card for everything else. So APK update, we have 28,848 packages available. So now we're pretty much at the default. So we can do LBU commit, and let's go back over and take a look at our instructions. So if we scroll up to the top here, so it talks about the structure. Let's make our directory, let's initialize it so that way we have all of our needed functions ready to go. So let's do make dir. And we will do /APK as our directory. And because we can technically do this all in one shot, I am going to just do a -p and we'll do /APK. Then we're going to do our version number, which is 3.19.1 technically, but we don't put the subversion on here. And then we'll do main. And then /arch64. And that's just because we're on the Raspberry Pi 5, so we need arch64 for that. Right, so we've made it. Let's add it to LBU. I'm going to add the entire APK tree to it in case we had other distributions in the future. Perfect. So let's go back and see what the next step is. And pretty much it wants us to dump all of our index file, or we want to create the index file after we dump all of our APK files in there. So here's what I actually want to do. So we're just going to go in and we're not going to follow what they're saying for this part, but I think that this will make it easier in terms of which packages to choose. Because we don't want to download all 22,800 some odd packages. We want to just download the ones that we need. So we can use the command apk info. And this will actually give us a list of currently installed packages. And I mean, we can't see it, but I'll do less on that. But we see it's not that many packages. So Alpine base, etc., Crony, GNUtils, Muscle, OpenSSL, etc. So if we wanted to, we can actually just do apk info and echo this to a list. So let's call it package list. So now when we VI into package list, we see that same contents with everything on a single line. So realistically, we know what we need to download. And we can start here, but we can also install some other things as well. So let's say we want to add FFmpeg, which has a lot of dependencies, and I think that that will be a nice example, just so that way we can show us installing something opposed to it being the defaults that are included on the SD card, just to make sure it's working. So let's do APK add FFmpeg. Right, so that's going to add an additional 101 dependencies that aren't on the native OS. And it installs pretty quick, so it's not something that's going to be particularly cumbersome to actually create. So let's go back in there, let's take a look. We see now we have all of these FFmpeg entries. We have quite a few additional things, and I think that that's going to be a good list. So if we did know what we actually had, or if we knew what we needed to be able to store locally, we can just go through to each of our Alpine instances, do APK info, find out exactly what's installed, and then be able to compile the list from there. Maybe we do duplicate it, maybe we don't. It doesn't really matter. But realistically, we'll know exactly what we need to download and have available. So we'll quit out of there. So next, let's write our script to actually download it. And there is a way to do it, which is APK fetch. And that will download the APK without installing it. So let's cd into our, well, actually we'll just stay here, but we're eventually going to want to make a bin file. So let's just go ahead and do that now. So we're going to do vi/bin/repository update. All right. And we're going to do shebang/bin ash. And we're going to pretty much take in that file, read it line by line, and then from there, download each one of them. And I think we can actually do it all at once. We would just have to concat all of them together to be able to define them. But it might be easier just in terms of logging and everything else like that, just to do it one at a time. So in the script, I'm doing cd/apk/3.19/main/arch64. Just so that way we're already in the directory where we need to put all of these files. Next, let's actually go through and do the APK fetch. So I need to just consult a reference here really quick, because I want to make sure that I'm reading it in correctly. So we'll do ash read file line by line. And there's a nice example here from Nginx. And it's while read-r line do command done with the input file at the end. Now this one is for bash, and there are minor differences between bash and ash. So there are a couple of other options as well, but all of these have pipes at the end that are piping in the file. So let's just go ahead and try it. It doesn't hurt us. I'm trying to copy it here. I'm not going to have a place to paste it. But while read-r line and then command with the pipe. All right, so we're going to do read-r line do, and then we're going to put new lines done, and then we're going to do pretty much the backwards caret and then our input file, which I believe we said it was package list, which is in the local directory. So that's just fine. And we don't have sudo or anything else like that installed here. Everything's running as root for the time being. Obviously for production, you may not want it that way, but we're just doing that for right now because it's going to be easier. And what we're going to do for each one, we're going to say echo. Actually, let's do a check, and we'll say if the file exists, right? So it's going to be line, And this may not work because of the versions, everything else like that. So we'd have to do a string thing. Let's just download it first. Let's start there. So for each one, we're going to do APK fetch, and then we're just going to do line. And it should output pretty verbosely, so we wouldn't have to do anything additional. I'm just going to put an exit 0 here at the end, and let's save that out. Right, I'm going to add that to LBU. And then chmod for executable permissions. We'll save our work, and let's run it. Can't open package list, no such file or directory. Did I spell it the same? I did spell it the same, but it is not looking in this directory. Let's give it a full path. Because we're in the root folder, it's going to be /root/package list. Okay, so we see it's going through one line at a time. It's downloading these individual repositories. It should be putting it inside of our directory for the actual location. Oh, and I know why it didn't find it, because we CD'd at the top of the script. So, yeah. And we probably need to move that to somewhere more logical, like an etc directory. That way it gets preserved past reboots. But we see we're not having to do that much, right? So it's doing it in a semi-automated fashion. It's kind of keeping everything moving. So it's something that we could potentially set to a cron task where we can periodically clear out old packages or ones that have been updated. But that kind of brings us to something where we would have to re-download them and then make the decision of which one is the newer version. But that being said, it does have a version number, but the index file is hit or miss. So apparently it does it based on dates and not based on the actual file version. So go figure. That's what it says. I don't know if they fixed that, and I haven't tried that, so maybe we find out. But to be honest, nobody's updated any packages since I've been checking this out. So we just finished, and now we can look at our files. Let's do ls apk 3.19 main arch64, and we see all of our packages are contained there as we expect. Perfect. So now we can move on to generating our index file. And I'll just pop back over here just so we could see it together. But we're going to do apk index-v for verbose u. I'm not sure what that option is, but we can look. -o, the output file, which is apk-index.tar.gz. And into it, we want to put star.apk. So that's pretty much how we're building it. And we're not going to sign it yet, but we're just going to do the first part where we assemble the list. And so let's do APK, let's do clear, just so we can see it. Let's do APK index -- help, and I think we should get a description, and that was not helpful. Right, and it says U is update cache. So cache max age is 1. So I'm not sure how that plays in here, but is what it is. All right. So let's do apk index -v capital U -o for output Actually, let's change that directory first, otherwise this is going to get weird. Now let's do it. APK index VU -o APK index all caps .tar.gz. And then we're going to give it as our input files, because we could just specify specific files that we want to input here. But in this case, we're going to put a wildcard, which is the star.apk, which are the extensions on all of the files. That way we don't have to worry about what they're called. We just know that there's only APK files in here. So if we did regenerate it, we just want to make sure anything that we want included is the only thing that's in the folder. Index has 0 packages, of which 149 are new. Perfect. Let's run it once more, and I think that's what the capital U is updating the index file. But it's talking about the existing index. So let's look. It's just that easy to find it. Let's actually do LA or less. And we see the APK index is there. It's about 20 kilobytes in size, and we did create it just now. So perfect. So we see that we now have what in effect is an unsecured repository. And there is an option to actually be able to use this where we would allow insecure on the end of our APK add statement. But in this particular case, we want to keep going. So next we're going to generate our keys. So we don't need to go crazy. We just have to add 2 packages, which is GCC and A build, which we probably should have done before we downloaded all the packages, but it'll give us a good chance to update it. So let's do that right now, and then we're going to do a build -keygen -a-i. So let's do apk add gcc a build, right? And that installs a nice amount of packages. Okay. And let's just sign our existing package, and then we'll worry about updating it. So we'll do a build -keygen, and we'll do -a and -i. Right? It says enter file in which to save the key. So pretty much it wants the destination directory. We can put it anywhere we want. Doesn't really matter. And we can also, general practice is to put your email address for whoever the maintainer is of it. But we can also go with the default. It doesn't affect anything. And if we did actually update the global parameters of Git, it would have been able to pull from there as well. It says DOS does not exist, so we do need to add that as well. And those digits at the end are actually just randomly generated every time it runs. And it says operation not permitted. Still don't understand that, but realistically, it's already there, I believe. So let's check it. And I think now we probably have 2 versions of it. So I'm not sure what DOS actually does, but it seems to always not be working. So /root /.a build, and we have 2 sets of keys. So we actually should remove one. Doesn't matter which one, just as long as we stay consistent. Alright, so now we have 1 set of keys present. So now we can actually sign it. And what we're going to do to sign it is we're going to use a build -sign, which is pretty much what we used yesterday to sign the package. So we're going to do a build -sign. We're already in the directory that contains the APK index. We're going to do -K to define our key, and this is going to be our private key. So it's going to be /root /.abuild / where are we? root.rsa. Then we're going to define our file, which is apkindex.tar.gz. Then we'd enter. It says it signed it successfully. Perfect. So, now we have a working repository. So let's just add it to our repository list locally and make sure that it's working before we start adding it to other machines. So let's do vi /etc apk repositories. Right, and up here we have our media card. And we can put right below it /apk /3.19 /main. And we just leave it at that. So locally, it's very simple to define, but when, of course, we go to other machines, we'll put in a full URL like we do with the main and community that we have for the normal repositories. So we could do APK update, and it says untrusted signature because we don't have the public key actually entered into our key file. So let's actually copy it over. So we're going to do cp /root /.abuild /root.rsa.pub, and we're going to put it in /etc. Let me actually verify that. Let's go back over, make sure it's not var. Yeah, etc apk keys. So let's go ahead and do that. So /etc /apk keys /keys. And that's just a folder. So we copy it there. If we run apt update again, we now see that we no longer have that error. So it's trusted. And we see 3.19.1 media, blah, 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 blah. You know, it's the same number of packages because obviously they're duplicate, but we don't see anything out of the ordinary here, and we don't see anything that is of concern. So what we can do is we can comment those out and see how many packages that we currently have, just to make sure that it's actually reading it appropriately. So I'm going to insert and put hashtags before these 3 entries. So these are all the other local entries except for the ones that we just created. Let's save that out, and we'll do APK update again, and we see we have 173 distinct packages available, which is how many we happen to have in that repository. Perfect. So let's go back and uncomment this, just so we don't forget, and break everything. All right. And we're back to 28,000. So now we need to actually install Nginx. So in order for us to be able to access it from outside, obviously they have to be able to get into the folder. And one of the nice things about APK is that it doesn't actually require any special web pages or anything else like that. It uses the native mechanisms in web servers to be able to list the directories that they're serving. So we're going to take advantage of that. So let's do APK add Nginx. Right? Not very heavyweight. Not a lot going on there. So we're going to modify the configuration file just to point to the APK folder outright. And then we'll set it up to start. So if we go back over here, it actually has a, to the instructions, we see it actually has an example configuration. And pretty much it's just doing the server, it's listening on SSL, things like that. So if you are going over the internet, you probably should do SSL. But if you're doing this locally, there's no reason it has to be SSL. So, but the key thing is root APK, and then for location, we want auto index on. So the rest of it can pretty much be omitted in terms of the SSL configuration. But let's go ahead and get that set up. So we do vi/etc/Nginx, and then we have, I believe, nginx.conf should have it locally, and it does. It can also be in conf.d. And it does not. Yeah, so it's probably in conf.d. Because it has HTTP specified here, but it doesn't have the server instance. We can define it here, but if it's already pre-configured, it could cause a conflict. Where was it? httpd default.conf, not conf.d. That's my mistake. So here we have our server instance. We see it's already listening on 80. We see it's for / everything is 404. We don't actually want that. We want it to do auto indexing. Right, so everything is not 404. So we want auto index on with a semicolon at the end. And then we just need to define our location. And I'm just going to pull this up really quick just so I can make sure I'm typing it right. Yes, it is root. Okay. So the way we define our location is root /APK, since we did put it in the APK folder directly, and a semicolon at the end. So that's really it in terms of what we need. We actually don't even need this at the bottom unless, you know, the 404 just means that where is it going to actually go and how is it being generated. So if it can't find something, it will still give us a 404, but this should give it a prettier version of it. So, but we don't have to do anything beyond this. So we will save that out, and let's make sure it's running. So /etc/initd nginx. I'm not sure if we're started, so let's do status first. And it says it is stopped, so we can start that. And let's make sure it's registered as a startup service. So we're going to do rc update, add nginx default. And it's added as a run level default. Let's just do lbu commit just to make sure everything stays where it is. And I'm also going to add that list file that we have since we're referencing it from another script. And just make sure, I'll do an lbu list just to make sure everything's there. Right, we see all of our packages, everything else like that. I am going to do less on this, just because we added it earlier, the entire directory, so the tree that is below it is also captured within it. So this can make the lbu commit file kind of large. So, but we see everything is there. You know, nothing to write home about as of yet. But something I do want to mention is currently we are keeping it all in RAM. So it will be very high performance, but we have a limited amount that we can actually store. So if you did need to actually store more, it wouldn't be a bad idea to actually mount a separate partition that has more space or another drive entirely to actually store these files to be able to serve them. But in this case, you would just mount it to that APK folder or wherever else you wanted to in order to serve it, and just make sure all the paths match each other. So let's test it. So let's go back over here. Right, if we do ifconfig before we go, let's find out the IP address is 35.101. So let's check it out. Because we should be running at this point. Okay, so we see our index already here. We see 3.19 is our version, and we see main. And we see arch64. And we see all of the files that are present within here. So it's perfect. It's everything that we're looking for in terms of serving the actual content out from that folder off of the Raspberry Pi. So something else I also want to put on here is our public key, so that way we can download it readily. So let's actually add that really quick, because we need to download that key to the other machine in order for it to be trusted. Just noticed there was a blue dot there the whole time. So let's actually copy it into the APK folder directory, so it's right in the root. And that's not going to hurt anything because it's navigating past it. So we can put whatever else there that we need. So let's do cp /root /.abuild. And then we're going to do our key.pub, and we're going to copy it into /apk. All right, so now when we go back out to here, we see our public certificate present. Perfect. So we can save that out, and then we'll move over to our client Pi, because pretty much we're there. You know, we have 90% of it already ready to go. And we can actually make a script so that way we can download it easier, but in this case, I'm not too worried about it. So let's move over to some fresh Pi. So we got the 3B Plus here, and we're going to do the same kind of setup, and we're going to set this up as a client. So we're going to do root, we'll do setup Alpine, just because we need networking, everything else like that. We're going to call this client, Ethernet 0 with DHCP, and no manual config. Right? Do we want to put in a new password? Absolutely. We're going to make it extremely secure. We're going to set our time zone. No proxy, set up crony, which should give us the correct time. So that way we can initialize repositories. And I'm not going to choose the community repository. All right, I'm just going to leave it as it is, and I'll show you why. No extra user, open SSH. I guess we're not enabling SSH without a password, or with a password. And we're going to keep going. So no disk install, memory card is the cache. So we're going to do APK update. Okay, we see 5,459 packages available. If we do APK search, FFmpeg, we do not see that it is present. So that's the key thing here. We've downloaded that to our local repository. So when we add that, we'll be able to actually access that package, where otherwise we wouldn't be able to. So let's go ahead and add that. So we're going to do vi /etc apk /apk repositories, and there we are. So we see we could uncomment this, but we're just going to add to the end. And we're going to do HTTP, not HTTPS. And you see even the default repositories are not HTTPS. So just something to keep in mind. But HTTP : / and what was it? It was 192.168.35.101. And then it was / 3.19 / main. There we go. And in our particular case, we don't have to put the architecture. It's going to append the architecture onto the end automatically as a function of APK. So that is actually it. And something else, if we did put it on a weird port or something like that, we could put that in this definition as well. It doesn't actually care as long as it's a valid address. So now we can do APK update, but again, we haven't installed our certificate yet. Right, so we see currently it said untrusted signature, so it was able to access it appropriately. We see that it did automatically go into AR64, but it can't use the packages. So let's fix that, because if it doesn't trust it, it won't be able to install it. So we want to wget, and this is why it's terrible that we made it such a complex name, because we won't be able to search it. So, but we're going to do wget dash capital O dash, which will output it to the console. And we're going to do http://192.168.35.101 in this particular case, /3, excuse me, no, it's just the name of our thing. So it's root dash and then a huge number. So let's try and remember this as we go back and forth. So I'm going to switch back over to the computer, because obviously that's not fun. And by remember it, I mean write it down. So 65D2 F434.rsa.pub. All right, I'm 30% sure I will be able to read my handwriting. So dash root, and we're going to do 65D2 F434.rsa.pub. Right? And let's just test it. Wait, what are you doing? Now let's drinking my water. I don't know if you could hear that, but I guess whatever. All right, and so we're going to take this. Actually, we don't want to echo it like this. Let's just download it and just drop it directly in the folder. That makes much more sense. So let's do dash out, and we're going to do /etc/apk/keys. And we'll check it out when we actually get in there. So it's wget-o, the destination, which is the keys file, and then our actual public file. Can open it as a directory. Oh, let's do lowercase o. That might be my mistake. Oh, it's looking for a specific thing, so we got to do the name once again. So let's do root-65 D2 F434.rsa.pub. There we go. Now it worked. Okay. And if we ls that directory, so /etc/apk/keys, we see a few things there, but we see our root.rsa.pub is one of them. So it's successfully downloaded, as so we think. So now we can do APK update. And we still see it says untrusted, so maybe we didn't download it correctly. Or maybe it was the wrong thing entirely. So let's see. So going back over to the computer, let's make sure that was actually the case. 65D2 F434.rsa.pub. Right, and just so we know what it looks like. Oh, I can't do that. So let's go over here. I'm going to SSH into it and just copy and paste the link. Very advanced. Oh, we didn't do password authentication. I fat-fingered the config, so usually I do the yes. So, one step at a time. So, let's see. Let's actually cat what we have here. Keys. It was capital O. It only saved the output. It didn't save the actual file. There we go. Details are important. So I wasn't crazy. It is capital O. Now when we actually run APK update, we do see that there's no errors from us actually reading this repository. And now if we do APK search FFmpeg, we do see that it is available. So we can do APK add FFmpeg. Right? It has 101 dependencies. It's able to find all of those through our local repository, and we're able to install them successfully. So even though we didn't have access to the community repository, and again, this is kind of like a great way if you wanted to pre-screen all of your packages to be able to qualify that they were safe, you could curate a particular list of packages and make it available to your client machines for them to use specific versions or specific distributions or from particular sources. So, perfect. So now we can run FFmpeg on our client, and we see that it runs successfully after installing it from our local repository. So remember earlier how we said that we wanted to update the list. So let's actually go through and let's refine our script a little bit. So let's do well, first let's create an etc folder. So we're going to do make dir /etc, and we're going to say repository update. Right? That's going to be the name of our directory. We're going to move our file from /root package list, and we're going to remove that into repository update. Right, and now we're going to actually re-export our list. And we could do this also just by making sure that every package that we ever want to have installed is actually currently installed on this machine. So that is an option as well, and we can skip going through the list. So maybe that's actually the way to go, because that was pretty easy to do. So let's go in and let's edit our bin file, and let's edit our repository update script. And right here it has our CD, etc. And we need to change this, so we'll actually still store it in etc as this package list. Right, but we need to generate it first. So let's do APK info, and we're going to pipe that once again straight over to our /etc /repository update /package list. So anything that we have installed here will now be available in our repository. And that's what's going to go through and actually download over here. So we run into the same problem that they did with the original script, which is when we're running this command here, we don't know what's currently present in the directory, so we may be downloading a new version and not realizing it. So we could clear out the entire directory and start again every time. That is an option. But, you know, I don't know that that's particularly clean. So that is something I'm going to think on and put it in the GitHub when I do get that put up. But let's finish this up. So we have it so it's downloading all of the files that we need. We need it to create the index as well. So we're going to do APK index-v, capital U, APK index.tar.gz. And we're already in the directory because that's where we just downloaded it to, so we cd'd there earlier. We're going to do /star.apk. So that will generate the APK for us, and then we're going to have it sign it for us as well. So we're going to do a build -sign, and I have a cat on my notes. Let's see. -k. And we're going to do our private key, which is still in our root folder. So we're going to do /root .a build / and there's no chance. Oh, no, there is. It's the same number. So 65 D2 F434. Again, your number will be different because it's randomly generated. .rsa. And in this case, we're not using the pub version. We're just using the .rsa version. And we also need to make sure that we include that in our LBU file before the next time we reboot. Otherwise, it's going to invalidate the public file, the public key file. But once that's done, that's going to be pretty much the end of our update. So let's echo update complete. Perfect. And let's do LBU commit -d. And let's make sure we add that private key. And we see it's taking a second because it's quite a bit, it's quite a bit bigger. So let's do LBU add /root, and let's just add the whole thing. And again, if we made it a read-write only partition or drive, it would be a lot easier for us to be able to actually go through and make sure that everything was being saved by default. But now that we've completed our script, let's go ahead and run it. So repository update. Let's see what it does. And I think it may actually be only downloading the ones that don't exist. Or it's downloading everything again, and it's just doing weird things. I think it's actually only downloading the ones that don't exist. So I think it is smart enough to be able to tell that this file already exists. That's what I'm going with. I don't know. It didn't re-download FFmpeg, so I take that as a positive. Because we didn't add that many files, but it is alphabetical. So I think it would have shown up by now. And then we have to think about a package that doesn't exist in community that we can potentially install here, update, and download. So we got to figure that one out. But that'll be pretty much our final test for this, and then we will call it a night. Or call it a stream, depending if you're watching this during the day. But yeah, if you guys have any suggestions for any videos like this, video topics, stream topics, things like that, Alpine Linux or anything else, electronics, you know, definitely let me know. And I did not put the output file, so it was close, very close. So let's correct this. I didn't put the file that we were signing. So this time, because it's already downloaded everything, it should skip everything. Let's see how that goes. That's just doing things if you can't read it. That's... Here, ready? Oop. Wait, we'll do... Oh no, my shoulder is in space. There we go, it completed successfully. Alright, so that took a hot second, but realistically, you know, it's something where if you automate this, it doesn't really matter how long it takes. So, it doesn't really matter at that point. But all we care about is that it actually signed it. It says it signed it successfully. So if we go back over to our client device, we can run update, and we will see even more packages. And we do, 5498. I don't remember how many more it had before that. So I'm sure there was a number. I could go back and look, but not worth it. So let's try and find something that doesn't exist here. Let's do search PHP. All right, it doesn't have PHP 8. So that's our good test. So we can test it, we can download it, and then we will install it. So we can do APK search PHP 8. Right, we see quite a bit here. So let's do PHP 8.3. And I believe we could just do add that, and it'll install a number of things. It installed 3 things. That is underwhelming. And let's do -*. So we're just going to install everything PHP. And I'm not sure why the wildcard isn't working. Also, it says we have a bad signature on that, but... Alright, well, we have 3 packages that we installed. So we'll have to see about that. So, now we have PHP installed. Let's actually go ahead and we're going to do our repository update. It should download those 3 packages. and it's saying there's a bad signature on this particular repository. So as it's going through, we do see it's checking all repositories in order to verify that they are, in fact, pulling the latest version. So it downloaded that one file. Let's see how many more it downloads. At least now we do know something's happening, but that's kind of annoying right there. So what else can we draw? Let's see. We'll draw a tree of some sort. I don't have a brown. Actually, I do have a brown. I can make whatever colors I want. Whatever the heart desires here. So we'll make the trunk of the tree. Choose green. All right, a little bit of green. Because that's what leaves look like. Maybe some kind of bird. The yellow beak. Isn't that beautiful? That's no extra charge for that artwork. So it says it signed it successfully, but will not write binary index to console, use force binary standard out to override. So clearly there's an issue in our syntax here. Because I don't think we had that issue last time we did it. So let's just do it manually really quick. I'm gonna have to get rid of the pretty tree. So let's do a build dash keygen, and we may need to delete it first before we actually recreate it. I'm sorry, not keygen. A build dash sign. Let's actually start. Let's do it like this, just so we can find out exactly what is causing the issue. Okay, so it says 180, which are new. Let's do ls-la, and we're going to do or greep apk index.tar.gz. So we do see that it's there. We see it updated just now. We see there's only one of them. So that's the critical thing. So now we can sign it. So let's do a build dash sign dash k. We're going to do /root / dot a build. A build, there we go. / root RSA. We're using the private key once again. So I may have mistyped it. So we'll have to see. And I didn't put the output file again, so the target file was not specified. apk index.tar.gz. And it says signed and there's no issue. And if we do apk update, we see there is no error present. So I messed up something inside of the script. So let's do bin repository update. Right, and we have a build dash sign. Oh, I see. I missed the -o right here. So it wasn't updating the actual index list, and then it was re-signing it a second time, which would cause an error. So now that we've got that figured out, let's rerun it. And actually what I'm going to do here is I'm going to also go ahead and just add something to tell us it's doing a thing. So let's do echo checking package. Right? So now we have some feedback to let us know something's happening. So I think that makes life a lot easier. So let's rerun it again. We shouldn't have to download any packages, but it will still have to go through everything, but at least we'll see things happening. And we don't see any errors this time, which is positive. And then once we get through the list, we should have everything signed and 100% according to what we expect. We can go over to the other machine, install PHP, and we'll be ready to go. And now I'm very thirsty, but my cat has been drinking my water, so I can't drink it. That's how that goes. So. It's almost there, so it's still in alphabetical order. Up to L. The anticipation is building. Because we have something to look at, I can't grace you with any more artistic talents. But if you are watching to this point, I definitely appreciate if you hit the like button. And if you want to, if you're not subscribed, please subscribe. You know, definitely helps out, so. Alright, it's almost there. It's there. It signed it. We didn't see any errors. So that's perfect. Let's just do APK update, make sure. No errors reported. Let's go back to our other machine. And now let's go ahead and install. We'll do update first. Right, we see no errors. Then we're going to do APK add PHP A3, which we knew did not exist prior to this. And we do see that it is, in fact, present. We do not see PHP A3 common, but we do see 3 other packages were installed. Well, it almost succeeded. I'm not sure why PHP A3 common didn't make it, but point being is that it's downloading packages, it's installing them, it's updating them, etc. And it may be because we may need to just check and see if it exists. And we do see it exists, and that it's present. And there's no reason why it shouldn't have been included in that list. So let's switch back. I'm just going to do APK update again. There might have been something else in play. Because it says 5,500 packages available. Still says it's not, package mentioned in index is not found. Let's see. Yeah, so the reasons why it's not installing, I'm not entirely sure why. But realistically, it got it from the same place as the other ones. It is available. We can go over to the computer. We can actually look at it there. But, so there may be reasons why we need to, use this sparingly. But at the end of the day, it is something where, under most of the cases, it actually works out normally quite well. So if we scroll down here to PHP 83-common, we do see it as available. We see it as the appropriate size, which is 25K. We can technically click it and download it. So we know it exists. So I'm not sure why it wasn't able to download it on the other machine. So your guess is as good as mine. But as far as everything else, we were able to install FFmpeg correctly. So back on that, if we did FFmpeg, which we installed from the server, we do see that it was successfully running, and that one has 101 packages. So I'm not entirely sure what happened with that PHP common file. But I don't think it's related to the code that we generated, just because realistically it's doing the same thing to all the others, so I think they would have had an issue too. But, can't speak for all edge cases. So, but that's all we got for today. So, thanks for watching the stream today. If you like it, be sure to hit that like button and leave a comment down below. And if you know anybody who would like this kind of content, be sure to share it with them. I hope they would appreciate it as much as I enjoy making it. So, and if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. It helps me out a lot with the YouTube algorithm. And then hit that notification bell. That way you know the next time we're getting extended. So until then, take care.